The metal gate didn't just lock. It slammed shut like the jaws of a beast. Nia froze, her hand hovering over the keypad. The red light on the digital lock blinked once. Twice. Access denied. She wasn't just fired. She was trapped. Behind her, the gravel crunched. Slow. Deliberate. The sound of expensive leather shoes walking on wet stone. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. The air had already changed, it felt heavier, colder, charged with the scent of ozone and expensive cologne.
You signed the paper, Nia.
His voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. It was the kind of voice that made grown men tremble. Low, textured, and terrifyingly calm.
Clause 4.
He whispered, right against the shell of her ear, his breath ghosting over her skin.
Nobody leaves.
3 days earlier. Nia stared at her bank account balance on her cracked phone screen. Negative. The red numbers seemed to mock her, glowing in the dim light of the street lamp. New message from Dad, they came to the shop again. Please, Nia. I don't know what to do. Her grip on the phone tightened until her knuckles turned the color of ash. She was 23 years old, standing in the middle of Gangnam, surrounded by neon lights and happy couples, feeling like she was drowning. The debt wasn't hers, but the consequences were. If she didn't come up with 50 million won by the end of the month, her father wouldn't just lose the shop. He would lose his life. That was when the black sedan pulled up. It wasn't a taxi. It was a phantom. Sleek, matte black, with tinted windows so dark they looked like voids absorbing the city light. The back window slid down an inch. Just enough for a car to slide out. A woman in the front seat, sharp-faced and wearing a suit that cost more than Nia's entire tuition, didn't even look at her. We heard you need work, the woman said. Her Korean was clipped, formal, devoid of warmth. The master needs a cleaner. Night shift. No questions asked. She extended the card. It was black with gold edges. No name. Just an address in the Pyeongchangdong Hills. The Beverly Hills of Seoul.
대패.
Nia asked, her voice trembling against the traffic noise. Enough to erase your problems. Nia took the card. The paper felt heavy, like it was woven with gold thread. She didn't ask who the master was. She couldn't afford to care. The house was a fortress. It sat on top of the hill, isolated from the rest of the city by a forest of pine trees. Inside, it was a museum of cold luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows, black marble floors that reflected Nia's terrified face, and silence. A silence so deep it hurt her ears. Mrs. Choi, the head housekeeper, walked fast. Nia practically had to run to keep up. You are here to clean, Mrs. Choi said, her heels clicking like gunshots on the marble. Not to look. Not to speak. You are a ghost. Do you understand?
Yes, Mom.
Nia whispered. Mrs. Choi stopped abruptly in front of a massive set of double doors. They were carved with intricate dragons, their eyes inlaid with mother-of-pearl that shimmered in the low light. Rule number 1, Mrs. Choi said, turning to face her. Her eyes were hard. This is the West Wing. The master's private quarters. She leaned in close. You never enter this wing while he is home. You never clean it unless I tell you he has left the country. And if, by some accident, you see him. Mrs. Choi paused. The silence in the hallway stretched thin, vibrating with tension. You look at the floor, Mrs. Choi hissed. You do not make eye contact. You do not speak to him. You do not look at his skin. If you break this rule, I cannot save you. Do you understand? Nia swallowed the lump in her throat.
Who is he?
Mrs. Choi's face went pale. He is the man who owns this city. That is all you need to know. Sign here. Nia signed. She thought she was signing an employment contract. She didn't know she was signing a death warrant. It was 2 a.m. The mansion was asleep. Or so Nia thought. She was on her knees in the main hallway, polishing the baseboards. Her arms ached. Her knees were bruised. But she kept scrubbing. Every hour of this meant her father lived another day. Suddenly, a loud crash of glass breaking echoed through the hall. A muffled, pained groan followed. Nia froze. The sound came from behind the double doors. The West Wing. He isn't home, Nia told herself, her heart skipping a beat. Mrs. Choi said he was in Tokyo. Another sound. A heavy thud, like a body hitting the floor. Panic flared in Nia's chest. What if someone was hurt? What if it was a thief? If she didn't check, and something happened to the master, she would be blamed. She would be fired. She stood up, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She wiped her hands on her apron and crept toward the dragon doors. She pushed the door open just a crack. The room inside was dark, lit only by the city lights filtering through the rain-streaked windows. The air smelled of metallic iron and whiskey. Nia stepped inside.
Hello.
She whispered. No answer. Just ragged breathing. She took another step. Her eyes adjusted to the gloom. She saw a broken whiskey bottle on the floor. And then, she saw him. He was sitting on a black leather sofa, his head thrown back, his eyes closed. And he was shirtless. Nia gasped. She tried to look away, to obey the rule, but she couldn't. Kang Joon-Woo was beautiful. Terrifyingly, lethally beautiful. His skin was pale moonlight against the darkness of the room. He was built like a fighter, lean muscle, broad shoulders, a chest that rose and fell with pained breaths. But it wasn't his muscles that stopped her heart. It was the ink. A massive, intricate dragon tattoo coiled around his left arm, its claws digging into his pectoral muscle, its scales fading into the shadows of his ribs. The ink was so detailed it looked alive, breathing with him. It wound up his neck, the dragon's tail disappearing behind his ear. He was bleeding. A dark stain was spreading across the white bandage on his side. Nia's instinct as a caretaker took over. She forgot the rules. She forgot Mrs. Choi. She rushed forward.
Sir.
She said, her voice shaking.
You're hurt.
She reached out. Her hand hovered over his shoulder. His eyes snapped open. They weren't human eyes. They were cold, empty voids. A predator waking up. Before Nia could blink, his hand shot out. He didn't just grab her, he snatched her wrist with a grip of steel. He yanked her down. Nia stumbled, falling to her knees between his legs. Her face was inches from his. She could feel the heat radiating off his bare chest. She could smell the danger on him, blood, rain, and expensive scotch. He didn't let go. His tattooed fingers dug into her soft skin, the contrast of his pale hand against her dark arm visually striking in the dim light. He tilted his head, his eyes traveling over her face. He didn't look angry. He looked hungry.
You.
He whispered, his voice rough with pain.
Who let a mouse into the lion's den?
Nia couldn't breathe. The air in the room felt suddenly thin, sucked away by the man looming over her. His grip on her wrist wasn't painful, but it was absolute. It was the grip of a man who never had to ask for anything because he simply took it.
I asked you a question,
he said, his voice dropping an octave, vibrating through her chest.
Nia.
She whispered, her voice trembling so hard the name barely made it past her lips.
I'm the new cleaner. Mrs. Choi, she didn't say you were here.
Joon-Woo didn't release her. Instead, he pulled her closer. Just an inch. Enough for her to see the flecks of gold in his obsidian eyes. Enough for her to see the way the dragon tattoo on his chest seemed to ripple as he breathed. The ink was mesmerizing, terrifying art, a beast clawing its way out of his skin.
Nia,
He tested the name, rolling it around his mouth like a sip of expensive wine.
you're trembling, Nia. Are you afraid of me?
She should have lied. She should have looked down. But she was paralyzed by the intensity of his gaze.
Yes.
For a second, something flickered in his expression. Amusement? Intrigue? It was gone too fast to tell. He finally released her wrist, pushing her back slightly. The loss of his touch left a cold phantom sensation on her skin.
Good.
He muttered, leaning back against the sofa and closing his eyes, dismissing her as if she were nothing more than a piece of furniture.
Fear keeps you alive. Get me the first aid kit from the bathroom. And if you drop anything, don't bother coming back.
Nia scrambled backward, her legs feeling like jelly. She rushed to the bathroom, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the bottle of antiseptic. When she returned, he was watching her again. He didn't speak as she cleaned the wound on his side. She worked in terrified silence, trying desperately not to look at the hard planes of his stomach or the ink that swirled down his hip bone. When she finished, she fled. She didn't walk, she ran. She ran until she reached the servants' quarters in the basement, locking the door behind her and sliding down against it, gasping for air. She touched her wrist where he had held her. It still felt hot. The morning sun brought no warmth to the mansion. It only made the shadows look longer, sharper. Nia didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him. The blood. The tattoos. The look in his eyes that said he owned everything he saw. She was in the kitchen, staring blankly at a cup of coffee, when the television mounted in the corner flashed a breaking news report. Gang warfare escalates in Seoul. Police connect the recent violence to the Golden Dragon Syndicate. Authorities are searching for the elusive head of the family, known only as the Dragon. The screen flashed a grainy, blurry photo taken from a security camera years ago. It was a younger man, but the eyes were unmistakable. Cold. Empty. Nia dropped her coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, sending ceramic shards skittering across the tiles. Golden Dragon. The tattoos. The wound. The secrecy. She wasn't working for a rich businessman. She was working for a warlord. A killer. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She couldn't stay here. The debt didn't matter anymore. If she stayed, she wouldn't just be poor, she would be collateral damage. She would be dead. She didn't clean up the broken mug. She turned and ran to her room. She grabbed her duffel bag, stuffing her few clothes inside with frantic, clumsy hands. Her passport. Her phone. That was all she needed. She threw the hood of her raincoat up and stepped out into the hallway. The house was silent. Mrs. Choi was in the laundry room. The guards were patrolling the perimeter. If she was fast, she could make it to the side gate. She moved like a shadow, hugging the walls, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Left turn. Down the corridor. The heavy steel door. She reached the side exit. It was a heavy, electronic gate designed to keep intruders out. But right now, it was keeping her in. She punched in the servant code Mrs. Choi had given her. Beep. 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 A red light flashed. Access denied. Nia frowned. She tried again. Her fingers were slippery with sweat. Beep. 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 Access denied.
No,
She whispered, panic rising in her throat like bile.
no, no, please.
She tried the main gate code. Denied. She tried the delivery code. Denied. The keypad screen went blank. Then, a single word flashed in bright red letters, lockdown. A mechanical whirring sound echoed around her. Metal shutters began to descend over the windows of the mansion, one by one, sealing out the daylight. The house was closing itself up.
Going somewhere?
The voice came from the top of the grand staircase behind her. It was smooth, calm, and terrifyingly amused. Nia spun around, her back hitting the cold metal of the locked door. Kang Joon-Woo stood on the landing. He was fully dressed now, wearing a charcoal suit that was tailored to perfection. He looked like a king surveying his kingdom. But the top of his collar was unbuttoned, just enough to reveal the black ink of the dragon's tail curling up his neck. He held a small remote in his hand. Nia stammered, clutching her bag to her chest like a shield.
I have a family emergency. I have to go.
Joon-Woo descended the stairs slowly. 1 step. 2 steps. He moved with the grace of a panther stalking a wounded deer.
You're a terrible liar, Nia,
he said softly. He stopped at the bottom of the stairs, 10 feet away from her. The distance felt like nothing.
The codes don't work.
She said, her voice gaining a desperate edge.
Open the door. Please. I quit. I won't tell anyone what I saw. I swear.
Joon-Woo tilted his head.
You quit?
He laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It was dark and dry.
You didn't read the contract, did you?
He took a step closer. Nia shrank back, but there was nowhere to go.
Clause 4.
He recited from memory, his eyes locking onto hers.
Employment is terminated only at the master's discretion. Unauthorized departure is considered a breach of confidentiality.
He was standing right in front of her now. He reached out, not to touch her, but to brace his hand against the door next to her head, boxing her in. He smelled of rain and danger.
Breach of contract means you owe me, Nia.
He whispered, leaning down until his lips were inches from her ear.
And since you cannot pay with money, you will pay with time.
Nia trembled.
What do you want from me?
Joon-Woo pulled back to look at her face. His gaze dropped to her mouth, then back up to her wide, terrified eyes. The hunger she had seen last night was back, but now it was mixed with something darker. Possessiveness.
Everything,
he said. He pressed a button on the remote.
Welcome home, Nia.
Nia thought she was signing a job contract. She just signed away her life to the devil of Seoul. But here is the big question, why did he choose her? He has hundreds of servants, so why is the dragon obsessed with the mouse? If you want to find out what happens behind those closed doors in episode 2, hit that like button right now. And tell me in the comments, do you think Nia should try to run again, or is she already falling for the monster? Subscribe and turn on the bell. You do not want to miss what happens next.